Okay? So here we go. Peter Moon, the title of Peter's talk is Dual Citizen Pain, Conscription and Culture Shock in the Korean Military. Peter is a junior majoring in biology. He's also a master of introspection, and he wrote this, which will become apparent in his talk today. Peter Moon, take it away.
Hey, Peter.
Wow, this is very unnerving. Okay, so today I'll be giving you a brief story of my journey towards understanding citizenship and my military service, and culminating in deciphering an identity crisis that transcended my own. And so I'm ethnically Korean, but I was born and raised in the States until the age of 12. I moved to Korea when I was 12 and stayed there until high school graduation. By being born in the States, I was granted an American citizenship, and by being born to Korean parents, I was automatically granted Korean citizenship. But when I was growing up, I always knew that I had to choose between the two because Korea did not allow dual citizens. And so, Korea would tell me, if you're Korean, you're only Korean. And if you're something else, you're not Korean. That was the Korean government's hermit kingdom, pure blood exclusive policy. But in January of 2011, just 4 years ago, the Korean government passed a law that would finally recognize dual citizens. And so maybe there'd be no more waffling, no more struggle. But that would not be the case. Here was their catch. Their catch was that if you're male, like me, and if you have a dual citizenship like me, and if you want to retain that dual citizenship, you would be subjected to the nation's mandatory military service. And so now I was in a quandary. Did I want to spend 2 years in the military just to preserve that status of being dual citizen? Did I want to leave my community here, my friends, my studies? And so in that quandary in sophomore year, I had to decide, and finally I made a decision that I would enlist in the Korean Air Force at the conclusion of my sophomore year. And so August 19, 2013 would mark the first day of my 730-day stay in uniform in the Korean military. After getting my 6 weeks of basic military training, I was assigned to the Sachon Air Force Base, which is at the very southern tip of South Korea. At the Sachon Air Force Base, I was then assigned to runway management squadron. But what would define my 2 years in the military was not the location of the base or the job that I was assigned to. What would define my 2 years in the military was a single question that was repeatedly asked to me in various forms. It was the question, why did you come to the military? In other words, why are you choosing to retain your dual citizenship? And it wasn't asked in a curious tone of, why did you come? It was asked in a very disapproving tone of, why did you come? And to them, to my peer soldiers in Korea, I had chosen to waste 2 years of my life. To them, they would rather have me just stay at Stanford, continue with my studies, graduate, and to have forsaken my Korean citizenship. And so I was lacked by the seeming lack of I was shocked by the seeming lack of patriotism. For example, American soldiers are very proud to be serving their country. And it was just such a shock that I had to see such a stark contrast in the attitude of Korean soldiers. And obviously there's the element that Korean soldiers are conscripted while American soldiers are voluntarily serving. But still, the uniform negative opinion in Korean soldiers was really shocking. And so I try to convince the others and rationalize to myself that I wanted to retain my Korean heritage, that I wanted to have a unique military experience. But when 10 out of 10 are naysayers, you have no choice but to start doubting your own motives for coming. Perhaps I had made the wrong decision, like I said. Perhaps it would have been just better for me to stay at Stanford and to forsake my Korean citizenship. And so these thoughts, undoubtedly they were omnipresent and really dominated my 2 years in the military. And coincidentally, I wrote in a reflection journal bi-weekly, and I'm going to read you a very short excerpt of what I wrote. This is actually written on February 7th, 2014. February 2nd, 2014. Happens to be a Super Bowl Sunday. Will my time in the military prove to be the most suitable time for me to reconcile both sides of my dual identity? Can I keep intact my sense of individuality and self-confidence in this struggle? Can I establish a more concrete, permanent Korean identity for myself despite that I have been preparing for a future in the States? And on the flip side, can I fully embrace being American despite having an ethnically Korean family and spending most of my formative years in Korea? So in this bi-weekly journal, I write in English, and then I'm not that good in Korean, so I practice my Korean. After hearing all these doubts and disapproval from my peer soldiers, I really had no choice but to really start delving into the meaning of the Korean identity and Korean history. I wanted to understand where my peer soldiers were coming from, and also the Korean psyche. And I found out that Koreans are really proud of their heritage. We are proud of protesting against and ousting the oppressive Japanese government in the colonial period. We are proud of the rapid economic growth in the post-war era, and we are proud of being able to progress from authoritarian to a democratic government in the past 3 decades. But that's only looking at the heads of a two-sided coin. On the tail side, we wonder, why were we that weak for the Japanese to just easily come in and take our country? Economic growth is great, but what was the evil that we promoted at the same time? We promoted ever-growing conglomerates in Korea that are contributing to a widening gap between the rich and poor, and also an ever-competitive job market. And how can we call ourselves a democratic country when the president right now is making executive decisions to the dismay of the majority of the civilian population? So as I continue to struggle with the question of identity, military service, and citizenship, I'm seeing that Koreans, and especially the younger generation of Koreans, are going through a similar struggle. It's a little bit different in nature, but our end hope is the same. Our hope is that we may one day be able to overcome the sense of alienation within our own country and be able to embrace Korea as our land and our home that we're entitled to and empowered to change for the better. Thank you.